So today I'm going to talk to you about rearing your children. Rearing your children. So we'll start with some biblical concepts because I think it's always good to start with biblical concepts. And I'm going to start first with the family as far as the husband and the wife. Now remember, I'm talking about two types of family. I'm talking about the ideal family that was established in the Bible. Then I'm going to talk about the realistic families that we find ourselves living in. In the ideal family, there is a father and there is a mother in a home with children. And because of this loving relationship, and they decide to rear family, then we have children that comes on the scene. That's the ideal family. That's how described in the Bible. And then there's various roles for each member of the family. It is the father role to provide for the family. It is the father role to make sure that his household learn and know about God and his concepts and his precepts. That's the father's role. That's our spiritual responsibility. Now, whether we take it or not is we've got a choice, because we're a free moral agent. But it does not eliminate us from that responsibility. So let me start with Proverbs chapter 1. I'm going to read a few of the verses of Proverbs chapter 1. Matter of fact, I'm going to read through verse 19. It says, "The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equality, to give subtlety to simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, but a man of understanding shall obtain unto wise counsel. To understanding the proverbs and to interpretation the words of the wise, that their dark saying. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instructions of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. For they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and change about thy neck. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, Come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with their spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their paths, for their feet run to evil, and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. So are the ways of every one that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owner thereof." So Proverbs in the very first chapter talks about wisdom and knowledge and how important it is, and how it's important for children to listen to their fathers to get this wisdom and knowledge. Now he's talking about fathers who are believers, who are followers, in this case, followers of the law. And then he said, also, you need to pay attention to your mom, because mothers have words of wisdom to share with you also. And then the warning he gives, do not go and join gangs that are doing evil things. Do not cast your lot with them and saying you're gonna have one purse and you're gonna divide the money equally. And even to the point where you're willing to take someone else's life, to take their goods. That just like a trap is in front of a bird, but the bird does not realize it is a trap, you're going to eventually get caught. And we have so many of our young men that are in prison and in jail simply because they didn't listen to their fathers and didn't listen to their mothers. And in many cases, they had no father or mother that was raising them. So many of our children have been raised by grandmama and granddaddy because of the absence of responsible adults who have gone through the process of bringing children in the world but do not want to assume the responsibility of caring for them. And then I want you to consider Ephesians chapter 6. Ephesians chapter 6. And all these scriptures I'm sure you're familiar with, so I'm not teaching you or sharing anything with you I'm just going to give you, as they say on TV, I'm going to give you my spin on it at the end. I'm going to give you my spin on it when we finish reading the scriptures. Chapter 6, verse 1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. And so everyone have a role. Everyone has a role to play in this relationship. You have the mother, you have the father, you have the children, and we all got roles to play. And if each one of us remember our roles, then the job can be accomplished with some sense of order and decor. But we have gotten out of order. We have so many homes without fathers. We have so many single parents who are raising children. And these I must admit, there are more single women that are raising children than single men, but I know of many cases where single men are raising the children. And so when we talk about the ideal family is not prevalent in everyone's situation. But because the family is not structured the way it ought to be structured, does not take away the responsibility. We learn in Genesis, the second chapter, that God created a helpmeet for man. And the helpmeet for man is woman. And so the woman, as a part of the family, the original intent of the family, was to help and assist the father or her husband in rearing the children. Each role would be defined. So then what happened to a mom who has no husband, or man who has no wife and raising children? Well, what you have to understand, if you have a helpmeet is a helper. It's someone to assist you. So if you have no one to assist you, then it becomes your responsibility. So women are not taking the place of a man if a man is not in his place. So if a man cannot or will not offer the children what they need in this Christian setting, if a man refuses to have Bible study, if a man refuses to take the children to Sunday school and church and to those Christian activities, then a woman is not taking the man's place by doing it, because she is his helpmeet and she has a right and authority to do anything that he cannot, will not do. And you're not taking his place. So that means if you do not have a man or a woman in your household, and you are the father and the mother who are raising these children, then the responsibility, all the responsibility will fall on you. Now you must take the responsibility. Now you can't take each other's role, because a man role and a female role are different. But the responsibility is given to whoever's the head of the household. So if you're the head of the household as an individual, then you're responsible for the nourishment of your children. You're responsible that they learn about the Lord. It is your responsibility. And we don't know reason. I mean, there's a lot of reason when people have single households. Sometimes they've been divorced. In my case, I was divorced. Many times people did not get married initially. Other things can happen because of death or widowhood. So we're not so much interested as to why the situation is the way it is, but now we have the situation, we have to deal with what is and not with what ought to be. And it's obvious we're not doing a good job, because we have too many of our children getting in trouble. We have too many of our children flunking out of school. We have too many of our children going to jail. We have too many of our children just got wasteful lives. Too many of our children can't even find a job, can't hold a job. Some of them not even eligible to go in the military because they have no discipline at all. And this responsibility of the child come back to the parent. God did not give the children to the church, did not give the children to the school, did not give the children to the government. God gave the children to the parents. And when you had that child, or when you took responsibility for that child, then you must give an account for that child in their growth. So it says that, Father, do not provoke your children to wrath and to anger. Well, let me tell you how fathers, and this can be applicable to mothers too, how you can provoke your children to wrath and anger is when you are demanding of your children what you will not do yourself. We confuse kids when we tell kids not to smoke and we smoke, not to drink and we drink, and not to take drugs and we taking drugs. Because you're either telling them one or two things. You don't do it because I'm the father, and since I'm the father, you must do what I say. But you're also teaching them, and when you get old enough, you can do the same thing. Why wouldn't you not put positive examples before your children? Why would you put them in a negative environment with things that will endanger their lives, their health, and their well-being? If you're going to be a father, then you have to be responsible for your children. If you're going to be a mother, you need to be responsible for the child. And if Johnny can't read, it's not the school fault. If Johnny knows nothing about Christ, it's not the church fault. If Johnny has nowhere to play, it's not the government fault, because God gave you the children, and many of you made a choice to have children, or whether you made a choice or not, you took the risk behavior to get a child. Now the child is your responsibility. And if you're a Christian, it is your responsibility to bring those children up in the statutes of the Lord, that they may know God and learn God for themselves, that at some point in their growth, they too can make a decision, a personal decision for Christ to become a Christian. And it becomes your responsibility. And whether you have a husband or wife or you by yourself, the responsibility does not change, because the need for the child does not change. Our children are crying out for us. And when we don't do our job as we ought to, then we're going to create problems that are not necessary for ourselves, not for our children. And then one of the things I see with adults, we spoil our children. I don't understand why anybody would spoil a child. I mean, listen to me very closely now. We spoil our children. Of all of the animals in the animal kingdom, the only animal that spoil their young are humans. It is our responsibility to make our children independent of ourselves, to be able to survive on their own. Every animal in the animal kingdom other than humans, at some point, will force that child to make it on their own. We humans will cuddle kids forever. They can come back home anytime. Many of them never even leave home. They are irresponsible. They have no discipline. You give them everything they wanted, everything they desire. And many of you use the excuse, I'm going to give my children because I didn't have. Well, your not having gave you the character you have now. So why would you want to deny your children the character you have? Why would you want to grow them up irresponsible? You are responsible. I'm talking about many of you. You know how to hold down a job. You finish school. And yet you spoil your kids so rotten until they know that they can quit school and they're going to be taken care of. Because you're not only going to feed them and clothe them and house them, you're going to give them all of the fancy clothes and the fancy cars, all the things you didn't have. And we have some of the best dressed, uneducated, undisciplined children in the world. And we create these little monsters. They don't just happen. And then you end up having to take care of them the rest of your life. You can't ever get rid of a spoiled child. They will be around you forever, borrowing money, aggravating you forever. You can't get rid of them. You got to teach your children as the animal kingdom does and put them out knowing that they can survive on their own. You got to put them out. Because if you don't put your children out, they're going to run your household. You'll be watching the television shows they want to watch. You'll be eating what they want to eat. And they'll be wearing whatever they want to wear. Because they will be the leader of your household. They will be the head of the household. I know many people give your children because you feel guilty because you're not there and you got to work. Well, what you got to do, you got to do. But even though you have to work, you still have the responsibility of those children. You can't advocate your responsibility, turn it over to your mothers and grandma and first cousin, because if grandma and first cousin and the next door neighbor raise your children, they will take on the personality, the attributes of those people. So I'm admonishing all of us to seriously consider playing a greater role in our children's lives. I want all of us to seriously consider that we can't afford to lose another generation of our young people. The challenges are great. All of society has plotted against, especially young black men in particular and females. And if we don't take our rightful place in their lives, we will be paying for our inattention to them for the rest of our lives.